What is up, my viewers? Spang here, bringing you a World of Tanks gameplay commentary. This is one of my own replays, and as you will see here in any minute now, let me just zoom out. There we go. I'm driving my IS-6. For those of you wondering, yeah, I caved. I got the IS-6. I mean, you might have known already, I have the T3 from back in the day when it was a Tier 9, but this match is a very respectable match, and there is one primary reason why I am uploading it, which you will see very shortly. But teams fairly even. That 5100 on the enemy team, definitely very skilled. He is a reroll, however. You can't have 2,000 battles and be that good without being a reroll. And our T37, I mean their T37 is part of G. Nemesis, actually, and I don't know if that player is particularly, if he is still in G. I know some of the top tier clans have gone through a little bit of changes over the past couple months since this came out. This is a 9.4 replay, by the way. And right here, I'm kind of playing a little bit oddly in the IS-6. There's a few tier 9s per team, and they are even in number. So a fairly even battle overall, although the enemy team looks like they are at a tier 8 advantage, whereas we have several tier 7s, and not to mention we have a tier 5 who just kind of fail platooned in here. That tier 5 Leopard, so, you know, not the best thing for a team, but at the same time, I am the most skilled in the higher tank. In fact, yes, that gamer, that's an odd way to spell gamer. For those wondering also what is up with my voice, I just kind of woke up. I'm trying to get back into, you know, day starts, gameplay commentary. So I can bring you guys more steady content, but right here, definitely not off to the best start. The Yog Tiger killing our IS-3 as he just blitzed across, trying to think for some reason that was a good idea, but he ran into, as you can see on the minimap, an E75, a VK4502B, a Waffenträger, tier 9, and kind of a whole mess of things. The F5100 kind of chilling out in town right now, and right here, I noticed that there really wasn't anything with meat on its bones, nothing that could really brawl over here to stop any of their mediums from pushing, or rather any of their faster tanks from pushing. And that was really my main decision to go this direction, was that the IS-6, while not a super fast heavy, is a bit more mobile than other heavies, especially in its own tier. Now, are there more mobile ones? You could argue the IS-3 is, but still, it maneuvers very well. It can brawl with medium tanks quite efficiently, especially tier 8 mediums. They just pretty frequently have trouble getting through its armor. And right here, 34-2, definitely not getting hit by my round, although I did attempt to do so. And the enemy team still taking a beating, well, dishing out a beating, I suppose is what I want to say, on my team. Up 3 tanks, up about 4,000 hit points, and right now just not looking good for my team overall. However, our team will get its first kill, knocking out an IS-3, and kind of just barely hanging on at the moment. But I do have to say right now, the fact that we have more green players than them kind of is working to our advantage at the moment. And I don't want to be too much of a stat whore about it. Right here, though, this AMX 1390 kind of causing some problems, and this is exactly what I was talking about. We don't really have that much over here to stop their lights and mediums from pushing on us and trying to get towards our base, and I just want to stop any sort of fast cap without turning my back to the enemy like I would have done so on the upper terrain. And right there, that is exactly what I'm talking about as well. T37 and Panther 2 bouncing off my armor, the 34-2 firing heat and getting through just fine. However, this 41 Bulldog looking like he's going to try and get through here, and I'm going to tell him no, but our team kind of beat me to it, the comment taking him out. The 1390 trying to get shots at from a distance. I have a 1390, and I can tell you, unless you're fighting APCR, that's probably not going to work out all too well. Getting kill number 1 for myself, and my team actually doing well enough at getting the tank lead, although the hit point lead still is to the enemy team at this point. So, as it stands, this is still anyone's match, especially considering that 5100 and that Yog Tiger are still alive. The Yog Tiger player, not too high of any skill caliber, but he is somewhat average if you look at that. So a little below average based on my skill rankings, but at the same time, it is a Yog Tiger, and it is a tier 9 and a mostly tier 8 match. And if you have ever played that TD and gotten proficient at that TD, you know that is a dangerous combination. It is just such a DPM monster that you can put out damage like no one's business. The hit point advantage still to the enemy team by about 2,000, despite us having a 2-tank lead. So we got to be very careful how we play at this point on. Having that hit point advantage means the enemy team, yes, they have fewer tanks, but they have more hit points, which means we have more tanks closer to death. And that means the match can turn on a dime at any moment if we get a little too reckless. And that's one thing I do like about having a mod pack installed that lets you see how many hit points are available per team, because you don't get misled by the tank count. If you're up by tanks, you are winning, don't get me wrong, but if you're not winning by both tank count and hit point count, you kind of need to be cautious about how you proceed in the match. And I'm not saying you need to be sitting back and waiting for the enemy to come to you and camping and all that terrible game-breaking stuff that no one likes to see, where both teams are just camping because one team has the tank lead and the other has the hit point lead, so on and so forth. The enemy team's still having that hit point lead, by the way, despite being down by 4 tanks. But the super Pershing, and right there, like I said, it can turn on a dime. We just lost 2 of our tanks, kind of closing that gap a little uncomfortably, and another one. Exactly what I'm talking about at this point. Trying to not turn my back on the super Pershing in the south, but I'm seeing the enemy team definitely starting to kind of turn this around at this point. And they still have about a little less than a 3,000 hit point lead, and the tanks are evened up now. Like I said, my team got a little bit careless. The Yogg Tiger doing well for himself, 2 kills. That 5100 player, the purple reroll, definitely doing decently for himself with 2 kills, and I can only guess how much damage. And this super Pershing, kind of clueless to my existence until I shot him there. I should have 6th Sense on this vehicle, considering it is my IS-4 crew. That is the crew I throw on my IS-6, and it works out very well for me. The super Pershing definitely about to completely be removed from this game just because he made a poor decision. He said, I'm going to push in the center of a valley, because that could never end wrong despite me being surrounded on both sides. Hopefully one of our teammates, there we go, the RU managing to kill him, definitely going to even things up. The enemy team still having that hit point lead, so we got to be careful. And right now I am repositioning, trying my best to keep my team from losing this match. I've only done 1704 hit points and damage and only got myself 1 kill, but still that's somewhat respectable. That's above, I would say, the average. I mean, I always like to try and at least, at the very least, do my tank's hit points and damage and get at least 1 kill. That way I can say, well, you know what? I knocked out one of their vehicles and I did my hit points and damage. I carried my weight. I really want to knock out this 5100. Again, my team taking the tank lead, but this 5100 is a big threat for me. If I can knock him out, that will ease my concerns greatly. That Nemesis G player, still alive. T-37 working out to do some damage here, and the Conqueror getting taken out by the Yogg Tiger, losing that tank advantage, and still actually swiveling around on this one, gaining the hit point advantage, but the enemy team gaining the tank advantage. So amazing how this game has just kind of turned around and become something so very close, when if you didn't have that damage bot installed, you would have said, well, your team was winning so effectively earlier, what happened? Well, we didn't have the hit points. And finally, that comment taking out that 5100, the biggest concern, like I said, for myself, a lot of potential burst damage and a lot of terrifying skill behind that driver. And at this point, this is the main reason I uploaded this gameplay commentary. Simply because you see what I was facing. We know the E-75 is there because he was last spotted in town. We know the T-37 is there because he was last spotted. The T-37, though, not that great of a concern for me. What is a great concern for me is the Yogg Tiger, who I know frontally I would have trouble penetrating even with the APCR rounds on the IS-6, because let's face it, 217 pen on an APCR round versus a Yogg Tiger, not exactly the best situation. And considering his rate of fire is, I believe, faster than mine, even with a 9-something second reload on this IS-6, I'm pretty sure he still reloads faster and hits harder per shot. And that means he would out DPM me like no one's business. I would be dead in an instant, and considering we have almost equal hit points, he actually has about 200 more than me, I would not win that engagement whatsoever. And if the T-37 joined in, or the E-75 joined in, I would not have any sort of chance. So instead of sitting around and trying to hide and wait for them to engage me, I instead go for their base, I reposition, I live to fight another day, I run and get to a more advantageous position. And right here my team's telling my comments to go help me capture, and I'm just trying to get their attention at this point. T-37 spotting me for his teammates, and you can guarantee that E-75 or that Jagdtiger are coming back. The E-75 shooting me from a position which I cannot see, but I do have that hit indicator telling me exactly where he fired at me from, which is on that ridge. And at this point, there's nothing I can do about it. E-75 also going to be a huge pain to try and penetrate. The Jagdtiger looking like he will get the drop on our comment, and the T-37, like I said, being the good little scout tank and spotting me for his team. So what do I do instead? I'm like, okay, well, this isn't an this position is not advantageous to me again. So time to reposition again. Run and live to fight another day. You've got to be cautious on how you approach things when you do not have the advantage. And that is one thing I see so often in this game, is when players are in a disadvantageous position, they still refuse to move. They're like, well, I guess I'm going to sit here and hold out for as long as I can, and then, you know, I'll die, but yeah, I would have held out for as long as I could have. But why would you just sit and wait for your doom instead of trying to do something about it? Like I said, in this game, I'm trying to work my tank into a good position. I'm not just waiting for something to happen. I'm actively falling back, repositioning, moving to different locations in an attempt to get the enemy team off its guard and get the upper hand on them. It's not going to happen passively. I mean, it can. Occasionally you get bad players on the enemy team who just kind of throw it away to you, who will come at you one at a time, even when they have the advantage, even when they can all crash in on you once. They'll come at you one at a time, and you'll be able to take them on one by one by one, and you'll come out on top. But that's really more a testament to their lack of skill rather than your ability in the game. Whereas in this case, I am actively repositioning. The Comet actually doing a good job of distracting the enemy team for me, allowing me to continue to push up and get into that advantageous position. Like I said, if you are not in a good position, it is always more beneficial to relocate, fall back, do something to get yourself out of there. If you don't feel like you can win it, you probably shouldn't be there. And this replay should be coming out right after the 50B replay with Never Aim, and he did that same exact thing. I know I called that video the Lemming Rush, and that was because of his suggestion to do so. But he was on that one flank all by himself. Well, he had a 215B, so maybe not all by himself, but he was by himself enough to where he didn't feel good about it. So what did he do? He moved T-37, say goodbye. He moved to the other side of the map where his team was, and he helped them to push forward. He relocated to a more advantageous position. And how did that work out for him and his team? Well, they won. He did over 8,000 points of damage. So, and that's exactly what I'm trying to do in this case. I've done over 2,000 damage, got myself 2 kills, took out one of their higher skilled players, and yes, he was in the T-37, but any tank is a threat at this point. And the E-75, just, again, being distracted by the Comet, who's being invaluable in his contribution as a distraction. The Jagdtiger deciding he's going to try and blitz this enemy, he's friendly to me, but I was going to say an enemy Comet because it is his enemy. And the Jagdtiger looking like he will finally get the drop on him, but at this point in time, I'm taking advantage, again, of the distraction provided by my teammate, who is, you know, just being, whether intentionally or not, he is being invaluable in his contribution to get those enemy tanks to focus on him. A lower priority threat, a tank that is not something that should really be as great of a concern, but because he's such low health, because he is such a soft target, and because he's more mobile. I mean, people actually kind of tend to take medium tanks as more of a threat than heavy tanks a lot of times. You'll see tank guns turn on a dime for a medium tank, whereas a heavy tank, they'll probably ignore for a little bit and pay more attention to the tank directly in front of them. Is that wrong? Not necessarily. You got to be careful of those medium tanks, because if you ignore them and allow them to flank, they will start to ruin your day. But the Jagdtiger actually being quite smart here, except for the fact he had high explosive loaded. I think he was expecting more of that Comet to come up, but he did hide in that bush, and here is his mistake right here. He starts charging towards me. As a Yogg Tiger, as a tank destroyer in this sort of situation, distance is your friend. You do not want to close the gap on a tank that is more mobile than you. And what did I do? I shot him in the track. I made him pay for that. And I said, you do not want to do this. And now I'm on his flank, and he is in a world of hurt. All he can do is try and run down the hill and get away from me and regain that distance he never should have lost in the first place. And at the moment, it's looking very poor for him. And will I get the kill shot? Not looking too good for me on that one, because RNG said not today. But I do get myself 3 kills, Comment getting himself 3 kills, and just a really well played team strategy there at the end overall. And that is kind of due to player skill. But like I said, the major theme of this video: don't just sit there and wait for your doom to come to you. Try and reposition. Try and do something a little cheeky. Try and be smart about the way you play. And you can turn around a game. If I hadn't done that, we would have lost. There would have been no chance of my team winning. But instead, I got myself another, 13,000 hit points of damage or so, another kill or 2, and my team actually ended up getting the victory instead. And just to see exactly how well each team did and how close the match was, let's go to those post-game stats. Alright, there we go. If we could just get it to load. Now, if any of you have been paying attention, you'll know that my 9.4 replays are actually being done on my laptop, and that is just to basically compartmentalize, as well as be able to kind of work on 2 sort of video projects at once. 9.5 is being done on my laptop, desktop, sorry, and 9.4 being done on my laptop. But there we go. As you can see, Mastery Badge 2nd class, kind of respectable. Duelist, Fire for Effect, and Bruiser, but no actual awards, even though you cannot argue that I was not invaluable to my team. It was just one of those situations where my team simply would not have won without my contribution. And at the end there, I mean, despite that, all I get are these little badges and pins, which is kind of Wargaming's way, and after their introduction, is kind of their way of saying, yeah, you didn't earn a medal, but you were still valuable in some sense or form. And like I said, overall, definitely doing decently for myself, earning quite a bit of credits and experience. But if we go rack and stack by damage, the enemy team, well, look at that 5100. That purple player certainly doing a lot. That E75 also doing quite a bit. Yogg Tiger, the 4502, doing about his hit points and damage. But overall, damage spread kind of even throughout the enemy team, kind of. I mean, it's definitely spread out amongst them. The only person who didn't do any damage whatsoever was that Super Pershing, who is named King Ibad, or King Abad, whatever you want to call him, but he certainly lived up to his namesake. But still, that 5100, not even earning himself high caliber, actually about 100 hit points short. So a little unfortunate for him. On my team, that Conqueror and me doing the top damage, him doing about 500 more. Conqueror is a very solid gun platform. And I say gun platform because it's not a good heavy tank, simply because, well, it's really soft, it's very vulnerable to arty, it doesn't really bounce shells reliably, but what it does have is a gun with amazing handling characteristics and DPM for a heavy. So it has a lot of hit points too. So what does that mean for a Conqueror? Well, that means it has a really good brawling potential. If you're in an open space versus another enemy heavy tank, your gun handling means you're probably going to hit more shots reliably, damage them more reliably, and at a faster rate. And the fact that you also have a large hit point pool means you'll probably outlast them, especially against a tier 8 heavy. You are absolutely going to destroy them. But digressing from that point a little bit, my team also had a pretty good damage spread. However, things that hurt us and caused us to be in the position where I kind of had to bail us out are IS-3 at the very beginning, just blitzing forward. I called it out at the beginning of the commentary. He kind of just charged into the enemy team, found a 4502B, a Waffenträger tier 9, or the Waffenträger tier 9, yeah. And I'm sorry, I should probably never do that again. But he just kind of charged forward and said, oh, there's the enemy team, and then bleh, died. Got only 1 shot off, no damage. And our 704 actually didn't even get 1 shot off. He actually, it looks like he was killed by that 5100, so I'm not sure I can blame him, solely for that. I actually did not see what happened to him in the gameplay, but he looks like he was actually clipped 6 for 6, which to me, that sounds like a 5100 getting on his flank and firing all 6 rounds out of his drum into him and killing him within the span of about 10 seconds. So it's actually closer to 12 because it's 2 point something seconds between each shot, and if he's firing as fast as he can, you know, rah. So again, I don't know if I can blame the 704 so much, except for the fact he got himself into that position where he did get flanked by that 5100 and get taken out. Still, it's kind of sad anytime you see a high tier tank destroyer die with 0 damage. It's one of those situations where you're kind of like, really? You died before you actually got off a single one of your high penetration rounds, high damage rounds off to hurt the enemy team? Maybe you should have been hanging a bit further back, because let's face it, the 704, not a frontline tank, and if you're playing it like one, you're playing a dangerous game. Some players have the skill and experience and the luck to do so, but not everyone, and as you can see, it can oftentimes work out poorly. But like I said, the main purpose of this video anyway was the fact that I simply lived to fight another day, and I just kept doing that. Anytime I found myself under unfavorable circumstances, I tried to rework them, and it worked out in the end. Me and this comment just absolutely took it to the enemy team there in the final little minutes and managed to win the match. So overall, 15 shots fired, 11 direct hits, and 11 penetrations. I did start firing APCR there towards the end just to guarantee, or at least better ensure, our victory and my damage. Overall, earned myself a little under 40,000 credits, and just actually a little under 1,500 experience points, which kind of got buffed for some, oh yeah, free XP, herder. And overall, 3.5 distance driven, so definitely moving my tank around. That number should very rarely be low, honestly. If you're playing smart and you're in a engaging match, that number will be small if you're just steamrolling the enemy team and driving on one flank, or if you're in a vehicle, let's say like a mouse or a tank destroyer that really isn't meant to be moving much, that number will be low. But honestly, in a lot of tanks and a lot of heavy tanks, if the match is well fought by both sides, you should probably be driving quite a bit to try and gain the upper hand. I actually did block a little bit of damage by armor, which I think can effectively be, I don't know quite what my hit points were at the end. I wasn't paying attention, I am sorry, but like I said, overall, a respectable match, a match that very much illustrates a important point in the game. It was respectable in the fact I did over 3,000 damage and got 3 kills, but at the same time, I didn't earn any medals. But this is actually a good match to illustrate another point is, you guys don't have to send me in the most amazing replays in terms of damage or kills. It doesn't have to be like 8 kills and 8,000 damage and I absolutely destroyed this enemy team who didn't put up a fight. Honestly, those matches are kind of boring. Like, it's fun to see, oh look, you completely steamrolled them. You drove on one side of the map and just kept driving forward, but the enemy team didn't put up a fight, so you did awesome. Good for you. But at the same time, it's kind of more engaging to see these types of replays, especially from you guys, because if they're mine, I know what's gonna happen. I know exactly what's gonna be going on, so it's a little less engaging for me. But when you guys send me in these replays where I'm not sure who's gonna win, what's gonna happen, just because it is down to the wire and you're having to use intelligence and skill and outplaying and outthinking the enemy team, those are the matches I would really love to see. Those matches that really illustrate good points such as this. But enough rambling on about that. Remember, if you liked this video, hit that like button. Sorry, like I said, I'm still waking up here. If you want to see more, subscribe. If you got a replay, check the description below for instructions on how to submit. And if you got suggestions on how I can make my videos or channel better, please let me know in the comment section below, or say hello too, that works. But until next time, this has been Spang, and I am signing off.
MLG Carnival.